The Solitary Reaper by William Wordsworth. Welcome to Class 7. The Solitary Reaper is a lyric poem by Romantic poet William Wordsworth. It portrays a young Scottish woman who is singing while she cuts and harvests grain by herself. The figure of speech is hyperbole and alliteration. Wordsworth was one of the most prominent English Romantic poets. In his poem, he focused on nature, children, and common people. He collaborated with his friend and fellow poet, Samuel Coleridge, on a collection of poems called Lyrical Ballads, which is considered a significant work of the English Romantic period. Wordsworth also provided his thoughts on poetic theory and described poetry as the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. In The Solitary Reaper, he shares the joy he experienced while listening to the song of a peasant girl who was working in a field and singing all alone to herself. The poet visited Stratford with his sister Dorothy before writing this poem. He stayed in the parish of Balquhidder in Scotland in September 1803. The Solitary Reaper is a narrative poem set to music. This style of poetry or verse is also known as a ballad. Behold her, single in the field, yon solitary highland lass, reaping and singing by herself. Stop here or gently pass. Alone she cuts and binds the grain and sings a melancholy strain. Oh, listen, for the vale profound is overflowing with the sound. No nightingale did ever chant more welcome notes to weary bands of travellers in some shady haunt among Arabian sands. A voice so thrilling near was heard in springtime from the cuckoo bird, breaking the silence from the seas among the farthest Hebrides. Will no one tell me what she sings? Perhaps the plaintive numbers flow for old, unhappy, far-off things and battles long ago. Or is it some more humble lay, familiar matter of today? Some natural sorrow, loss or pain that has been and may be again. Whate'er the theme the maiden sang, as if her song have no ending. I saw her singing at her work and o'er the sickle bending. I listened, motionless and still, and as I mounted up the hill, the music in my heart I bore, long after it was heard no more. Breaking the silence of the seas among the furthest Hebrides. The Hebrides are an island archipelago along the northern coast of Scotland, which would mean that her voice was traveling for miles and miles, which is exaggeration or hyperbole. Highland lass means mountain girl. The Solitary Reaper is a work of expressive beauty. The poet is taken by the way her voice and feeling fills the emptiness of the highland valley. The poem also follows the rhyme scheme of AB, AB, CC, DD. The sound of consonant is repeated in phrases. Alliteration is a poetic device The simile is in the lines, "What earth the theme the maiden sang, as if her song could have no ending." This is an indirect comparison, saying that it was as if the singing would continue on forever and would never end. The poet draws his attention to the listener about a mountain girl who is working all alone. Engrossed in her work, she doesn't notice the poem and keeps singing unconsciously. Since the poet doesn't want her to be disturbed, he requests other people to pass by gently or to stop. The girl keeps busy cutting and binding the grain and at the same time sings a sad or a melancholy song. The reaper's voice is so enchanting that the whole valley seems to reverberate with it, which renders it more intangible, distant, and lonely. He then compares her voice with the nightingale and suggests quietly that no poet have ever sung of this. Even travelers in the middle of nowhere haven't heard of such melody. The poet extends to say that her voice is more thrilling than the cuckoo bird singing in springtime. The silence of the sea is broken by the sweet voice of the reaper, and it travels miles as far as the islands of Hebrides, located in the west coast of Scottish mainland. The poet then wonders about the subject of the song. He doesn't understand the lyric of the girl's song. He thinks the girl is singing about some sad incidents that happened in the past, or some day-to-day familiar matters, or of some love-lost ones. In the final stanza, the poet stops meditating over the theme of the girl's song. He does not understand the dialect, and now gets captivated over the melody of the girl's song, while she continues cutting and binding grain with her sickle. He listens to her spellbound and then climbs the hill and carries the tune in his heart, even though he can no longer hear it clearly. The final two lines emphasizes the beautiful thoughts and feelings of the moment. The poet is about a young Scottish mountain girl, singing while cutting and binding grain. The poet is captivated by her tune which he doesn't understand. NCERT State Syllabus QA.